Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So again, playing catch up for the end of the year. This one at the time of this recording was still playing in the main theater, but it was slowly on its way out because it opened probably like mid to late December, so it's been out for a while, but finally got around to seeing it because for some reason it's still in the main theater almost a month later, so didn't catch this one at the Dollar Theater like the last one. But today's video is Manchester by the Sea. Originally when I saw the poster for this, I was like, okay, I have no idea what that is, doesn't even sound interesting, probably not going to see it. Then I saw one preview for it, and I was like, oh, that seems like it could be interesting after all, maybe I'll go see it, so I put it on the list. And then when it came out, I was like, other things kind of take priority over it, I don't really know if I'll get around to reviewing it. Even when I was putting together the list for the unseen movies of the year, and I said these are the 4 that I'll probably get around to seeing after the new year, this one still, I was kind of like, I could probably skip that one and just do the other 3. But I had some free time one day, and it was still playing, so I was like, you know what, let me just get it out of the way, get it done with, and get a review up for it. So, Manchester by the Sea, like I said, from the preview that I saw of it, looked like it might be kind of interesting, but it was one of those dramatic pieces where there's a lot of background story. But it still looked like it could have been good. I was kind of feeling that it was going to be something similar to like The Judge with Robert Downey Jr., where he goes back home and has to deal with like all his family life and stuff. And that's kind of what this movie was, but not quite. So basically the story is Casey Affleck's character is a maintenance man in Boston or something like that. I forget where exactly he lived. And he gets a call one day that his brother died. His brother had congestive heart disease or whatever it's called. And he'd been dealing with it for a few years, and it finally weakened his heart enough to where it killed him. And so he gets the call that his brother died. His nephew's still at school and hasn't been told yet. So he's like, well, don't contact him yet. I'm leaving work now. I'll be up there in an hour. I'll pick him up from school and let him know what's going on. So he goes to Manchester, goes to the hospital, sees his brother's body and everything, talks to the doctors for a bit. And then, he says, well, I'll make arrangements as time goes on. And then he goes to pick up his nephew from the school, lets him know what happened. And now basically he's kind of taking care of his nephew until arrangements are made. And when they go to the will reading, it turns out that his brother made him guardian. And he just has like this real freak out moment where he doesn't want to be the guardian. He doesn't mind like helping out right now, taking care of him and stuff. But to be his full-time guardian, he's kind of reluctant to. As the movie progresses, you find out why. And I'm not going to give it all away, but basically it has to do with he has an ex-wife, he had children, and obviously him living in another state, they're estranged. So it's kind of that whole doubt of, can I be a good parent based on my past? And he just kind of gets to this point where he's willing to take the kid in, but he's like, I can't live here in Manchester because that's where all the memories are. That's why I moved away in the first place, was so that this wasn't constantly on my mind. I wasn't looking around, seeing everything around me and having to remind me of everything. So at first he's telling the kid, if I'm going to be your guardian, you're going to come back to Boston, live with me, we'll get a bigger place, whatever. And the kid, of course, doesn't want to be uprooted. He's a teenager. He's in his school. He's on the hockey team. He has all his friends there. He's in a band. And he's like 17 years old or 16, 17 years old. So he doesn't want to just like go start a new school when he could just finish out his school where he's at. And he's like, well, my dad made arrangements for you to move here. Why don't you just do that? So there's kind of like this back and forth butting of heads of, I'm not your father, but I am your guardian, so this is what I want you to do. And they're butting heads over who's in charge, because the boy is almost an adult, but at the same time he's not. I mean, you can't blame the kid for not wanting to be uprooted, especially when his dad made all these arrangements for his uncle to come there. But he never talked it over with his brother before passing, so there's that whole issue of why he left in the first place. So as time progresses, he's kind of warming up to the idea of maybe I'll move here, maybe it's not so bad, I'm kind of doing okay being here. And then once the funeral rolls around, his ex-wife shows up because she had stayed in contact and stayed good friends with his brother even though they had split. And she just felt that she should be there, and seeing her like reignites all these memories and whatnot. And he just has like a breakdown again. He's like, I just can't do it. Either you come back with me or we're going to have to figure out other arrangements. So eventually they make arrangements to where the kid can stay there and whatnot, and that kind of wraps up the movie. Not going to tell you exactly how it resolves because it is kind of its own thing that kind of makes more sense as you watch it. The main problem with it, I think, is that it was too long. It was a 2-hour and 15-minute film, counting like 6-7 minutes of credits, whatever. But yeah, it was like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and there was just a lot of points in the film where nothing was happening. It's like they're rehashing the same arguments, or everyone's just kind of standing around not doing anything, and it's like, okay, you could have cut a lot of this out and just moved on to the next major point and probably wrap this movie up in like an hour 20. But yeah, it's trying to be one of those more artsy films and whatnot, which is why it has the extended time. And just a lot of it didn't need to be there, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they did it that way. But overall, yeah, it's just kind of an uneventful film. It wasn't a bad film, it's just not a lot happened. It's like you're sitting there trying to figure out what this guy's backstory is about why he doesn't want to take care of his nephew, or why he doesn't want to take care of him in Manchester for the most part. And then about midway through, once the whole story is revealed, it's like, okay, well, now we still got another hour of this film left. And so it's just like a lot of padding and everything. And it could have been trimmed down and been a lot better. And I think it could have carried a lot better than what it did with me. The other problem I have with it is it makes everyone in Manchester seem like they're like socially awkward, sarcastic dickheads. It's like everyone, like when he first gets back to Manchester, like he's kind of socially awkward in his normal living situation when he's being a maintenance man at these apartment complexes. And you're like, okay, well, he's just socially awkward, whatever. Then he goes back home and like everyone around him is the exact same way. Everyone's like just kind of quiet, keeps themselves kind of mutish, and like when they do talk, it kind of comes off sarcastically, or they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever, or you know, it's just like this weird dynamic. And you're like, okay, so everyone in Manchester is like this, but then as it goes on, everyone kind of like normalizes because it was like the shock of the death or whatever. And then everyone kind of normalizes and goes back to being normal, except him. He's still the socially awkward one, and that's when it starts to reveal his backstory about why he doesn't feel he would be a good guardian to his nephew. But like I said, they burn through that kind of quickly, and then there's like the ending, like you get to the end where you know what's going to happen, and you're like, okay, there's still 20 minutes left of this film. What else are they going to do here? And again, like that last 20 minutes is just a lot of padding, and like 6-7 minutes of credits. So, yeah, overall, they could have tightened it up and it would have been a lot better film. The story wasn't super original. Like I said, it's been done before. You know, the reluctant person being left in charge of some dead family member's kid or whatever. I mean, hell, it's kind of the plot of Big Daddy, except not as funny. What would I give it as far as a star rating? I was going to say a 3 because it is just kind of a middle-of-the-road film. Like I said, I wasn't like bored watching it. It's just a lot of the stuff didn't need to be there. But at the same time, like I said, it didn't need to be 2.5 hours long, or 2 hours, 15 minutes long, whatever it was. It could have just been shaved down to an hour and a half or just a solid 2 hours. Like I said, that last 20 minutes was really padded out, and it would have been an okay film. It still would have had its down points, but it wouldn't have been quite as dragging as it seemed because of how long it was. So, even though I was going to say a 3 because it is just kind of a middle-of-the-road film, I might have to knock it down to like a 2.5, but again, it's not a bad film. It is just kind of a middle-of-the-road film. If you like those type of dramatic things like The Judge or things like that, it's along that lines, but honestly, between this and The Judge, I'd rather watch The Judge because that had a lot more in-depth of a story, and they knew how to stretch the story to make it fill in better to where you didn't feel like you were wasting time at a lot of points. So, yeah, like I said, I gave The Judge like probably a 4. This one, I don't feel even needs to be a 3. I think it is a 2.5 film. But regardless, if you're into those, like I said, I'd still probably check it out. I'd still recommend it for you if those are the types of films you're into. Maybe you'll enjoy it where I didn't necessarily enjoy it. So that's basically it for Manchester by the Sea. Like I said, I came real close to skipping this one altogether. And honestly, if I had, probably wouldn't have mattered. Would it have ended up on my top or bottom list of the year? Definitely not the top list. Would it have made it to the bottom? Probably not. I mean, as long and drawn out as it was, I feel that the movies that were on the bottom list still would have ranked over top of this one. So again, it didn't really change the end of the year list at all. It just is what it is. So that's it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down there in the description. Click the bell up there. Make sure you're getting alerts every time I post new content. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.